All right, so good morning and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. It's Fathers Conference panel session. It's day 2, and this is the first session that we are going ahead with. And in a few minutes, I'm going to just roll out the people we're going to have at the panel session, and then they will carry on. Thank you again for being here, and good morning.
Mute Efe. Mute Efe is a leadership trainer, author, and speaker. He is the founder and tribe leader of the Leadership Tribe, an online community with over 24,000 members as of December 2020, with the vision of raising global leaders. He is the lead trainer at Personal Leadership Academy with trainings across leadership, entrepreneurship, goal setting, success habits, redefining purpose, personal and family finance, etc. Over 1,500 people have attended the Personal Leadership Academy. He is the author of several books, including The Beautiful Life, Get Naked Questionnaire, Are You Like Most People? What They Don't Tell You About Mentoring, and Why Bad Things Happen to Good People. A graduate of Electrical Electronics Engineering, Mute Efe worked with Procter & Gamble, Nigeria, for 5 years before launching into the training and development industry. Mute is also a certified safety professional as well as certified in basic and advanced leadership. Currently residing in Lagos, Nigeria, Mute is married to Priscilla and they are blessed with 2 daughters, Zoe and Zuriel.
Dauda Gaina is a trained theologian with BA Pastoral Theology from Jos Equal Theological Seminary, Master of Education in Guidance and Counseling from Taraba State University, and currently a doctoral researcher with Taraba State University. He is also an alumni of International Leadership Institute. He is a certified marriage mentor and relationship coach, an author, preacher, and teacher of God's Word, a personality development trainer, professional counselor, and entrepreneur. He is the founder of Significant Marriage Consult and Achievers Coaching Academy. Through the platform, he hosts the popular programs International Couples Roundtable, Single and Married Hangouts, Singles Academy, Teenage Bootcamp, Counselors Academy, and International Mentors Diary Room. He is married to Mercy and they are blessed with 3 kids, Anointed, Anita, and Ansley. He is based in Jalingo, the capital city of Taraba, Nigeria. Chiedozie is a trained teenage and youth personal development coach. He is an entrepreneur with experience in human resource, logistics, and supply chain management. He has over 5 years experience in the non-profit sector with focus on youth development, communications, and leadership. He is a graduate of Electrical and Electronic Engineering and is certified safety professional. He has also received advanced leadership certification from several institutions and a leadership award from the Akwa Ibom State government for his contribution to the MDGs advocacy project in the state. Chiedozie is a public speaker, trainer, and author of several books, including Game Plan, a life plan workbook for young people. He is the founder of Teen Success Academy, a coaching outfit equipping young people with tools for personal development, confidence, and success.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome our panelists for TIP Fathers Conference 2021.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you, Leader Mute Efe, and thank you, Chiedozie, for being here. Incidentally, Pastor Gaina is going to join us after a few minutes. He had a death emergency and had to attend to it in his church, and he will join us soon. Thank you again for being here. Chiedozie, over to you.
Good morning, Coach Wendy. Good morning, Leader Mute. Great to have you on the show this morning. Looks like your audio is, can you hear me?
Yes, he needs to unmute his mic.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Awesome. Yes,
Yes,
boss.
we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah. So it's good to be
Welcome, sir.
here. I feel honored to be here.
Thank you very much for coming. So we have had an amazing session throughout yesterday, and we're back again today. Last night we were talking about the father's blessing, the power of the father's blessing. And then we're also talking about the importance of fathers in nation building. Barrister Akinlami took us through all of self-discovery for parents, for fathers particularly, dealing with the issues that bother us as men. And then Pastor Osiri came from the angle of authority and talking about connection to be able to exercise authority as against dominion over the children that we parent. So welcome, sir. Today we're supposed to be having a discussion on, importance of networks, of fatherhood networks, why men should connect and collaborate with one another. So I don't know if you have anything to chip in from where we're coming from yesterday, talking about the authority of the father, the importance of blessings, and the importance of fathers in society. Pastor Siri made a very powerful statement last night when he said, as goes the father, so goes the family. As go the men, so goes the society. So I like to take you up on that for a start. Welcome, sir.
Yeah, I actually watched his session, at least the most part of it, and it was intense because he unveiled some great principles that we really need to pay attention to. We are in this woke generation, and sometimes they make you feel like the foundation don't matter anymore, that the tenets of life, they are no longer that important. Everybody just feels they can do whatever they wanted to do. And it reminded me of permitted to use the Bible. There were errors in the Bible, and scriptures will say at this time people did whatever they liked.
Yeah.
The consequence
when there was no king.
When there was no king, and people just did whatever suited them. The consequence was that the voice of God became absent. If you remember, anytime people turned into doing whatever they liked, whatever they loved, the voice of God becomes absent. And that means there are basic tenets that we must adhere to. We cannot just give up. There are things that are okay to say, okay, it's flexible. It is neither white nor black. But there are things that are firmly white or black. And we need to understand these things, that as far as the universe is concerned, we cannot shift grounds. I remember watching Coach Wendy's The Role of Fathers, which she did a couple of days ago too, and it was very true. There are certain things, there are certain positions that fathers hold in the family. At my own family, and I was just laughing because it was 100% true. There are certain things that my wife would say, honey, please talk to Zoe, and I'm like, is she not your daughter too? But she knows that when it comes to that area, she listens to the father, not the mother. Does it mean that the mother is not firm enough? I don't know. But if you go to homes, you will find these things happening. There are certain things that are just in men, and Coach Wendy was able to highlight them. One of them is setting boundaries. I think men are more equipped to set boundaries for the home than the women. They are not just wired for that. They just, they just put it to the angle of the men. So these are things that every man needs to know. A home without a father, it's a difficult home. People may say, yes, but there are single mothers who have been able to raise awesome kids. Very true. But what is the percentage? You get my point. What is the percentage?
Very true.
So it's not about taking the exception and making it the norm. We should rather follow what ought to be and stick to that. So I think yesterday's session with Pastor Osiri was also a wonderful one. If you just look at it, it was Abraham to Isaac, Isaac to Jacob, Jacob to the 12 tribes of Israel. It was from man to man to man. We are not saying the women are not important, but there is a role for the men in the family.
Yeah, I get that. And something very powerful you have just said, a home without a father, it's going to be a very difficult home. It's going to be a very difficult
Yeah.
place. And, the wolf thing, I really don't know. I read about an article. Is it New York Times? No, Washington Post. And a professor was saying, actually making an argument that fathers are no longer needed. And I was wowed. I was wow. There's a level that we can study, and then it becomes a problem for us and for
Uh,
society as
uh,
a
uh,
whole.
uh, of course, of course.
But let me take you back
Because
to the.
yeah.
Okay, you want to say
No,
something?
continue. You
Okay, I
continue.
was going
I'll
to
come
take you
back to
back
it.
to the broadcast that you referred to, that Wendy made. One of the things she said there, and that's something I'd like for us to consider, is that men love differently. Okay,
Yes.
there's a way that men show love, and then it's different from the way that women show love. And
Yeah.
from the view or the point of view of a child, it's important that a child experiences these two kinds of love
Yeah.
expressions. And so the fact that men love differently is what I want to ask you now. There's this concept about men becoming emotional or not being emotional, being vulnerable or not being vulnerable, because the crux of what we're talking about this morning is fathers and support groups and networks. So
Yeah.
there is on the one part that there's a way that we love, the firm love or the tough love or something like that. But there's also the downside to it, that men are not easily vulnerable, and so we suffer issues that we're not able to open up even to other men. What do you have to say to this, sir?
Yeah, it's quite true because I would like to say women love emotionally, men
Mm.
love logically. Men
Yeah.
have logical love.
Okay.
on on a general note, men love logically. We apply the concept of science to our love. I mean, there has to be an order. You have to warrant this. You have to have done this. There is a logic. We want to be able to give a logical backing to everything. Why women want
Mm.
to give an emotional backing to everything. And the truth is that every child needs both. They
Mm.
need both that love of the father and love of the mother. Yes, it can go to the extreme, and we are not saying that women don't show the kind of love that men show, at least once in a while. They also show that kind of love. And men, we should also understand that there is nothing wrong with being emotional also. I don't know if you get my point. There is nothing
Mm.
wrong. So we
Mm.
shouldn't see the kind of love that our wives show to the kids as spoiling the kids. That is what men take it, that you are spoiling the
Yeah.
kids. You are
Yeah.
because you are so emotional. No, there needs to be that balance. There needs to be that balance. I grew up in Benin, and there was this common adage then that, if you use one hand to beat a child, you use the other hand
Use the
to
other hand
draw
to
the
pull
child
them back.
closer. If you use the hand, it's a saying that one hand for disciplining, one hand to embrace. I think the father's hand is that hand that brings the discipline. The mother's hand is that hand that brings the the hugs,
The
right?
loving and the,
So
yeah, yeah, true.
the loving hand. So the child needs both. You can't just give only one to the child and expect that child to turn out well. The child needs both. Now, at the same time, both parents should also learn to express both kinds of love.
Mm-hmm.
Both parents should also learn to express both kinds of love. It's not just good to be too extreme that because I'm the father, the child only hears my voice when she has done something wrong. No. I should be able to also, embrace the child, be able to still, make the child feel that emotional love. So men need to learn vulnerability. Then women also need to learn toughness. So there has to be
Okay.
that balance.
Yeah, we need to
So
find
why
a
men,
balance.
why as men, we are learning to be vulnerable and be open, to know that there is nothing wrong with a man, being emotional. There is also nothing wrong with a woman learning to be tough. Because, and we have seen it happen, times come, life happens, where you may need to show both kinds of love to your children as an individual. You know, it's not every home that you have both the father and the mother. So in such a situation, you need the parent that is there should be able to exercise both kinds of love. Whatever parent that is present, be able to exercise. So parents need to learn both kinds of love. But we should know that women are naturally wired to express a particular kind of love, while men are naturally wired to express a particular kind of love. Virtually every home, you will hear the women say, "Don't worry, when your daddy comes back, I will tell your daddy." Because
daddy is the threat card.
they know that that's where the father's perspective is. So I think we need both kinds of love, and we should learn to cultivate both as parents.
Okay. Thank you so much, sir. So there's this group I follow, and then I was going to ask you, why should a man pursue or seek support from, other networks of men, support groups? We don't have a lot of them here. There's one that I follow in the US. It's called the Cave of Adullam. And what they do is just a group of men, and they adopt vulnerable boys and train them. And then it's more like a clean fraternity, because men love fraternity anyways. Okay. So, but why is it that men don't go out on their own to look for support groups that actually deal with the issues that they are going through? So you find men hanging out in beer parlors, and they're not talking about their issues. They're discussing sports and politics. They're not talking about that. So why should we look for support? Why should we find those networks?
Chiedozie, what you just said now, runs very deep, very, very deep. Especially for those of us that grew up in this part of the world.
Yeah.
We are a product of the society we have grown up in. We are a product of that society. Now, what that means is that many of us are wounded, but we don't know.
Okay.
Many of us are wounded, but we don't know. Many of us are traumatized, but we don't know. Because everybody else look like us. You get my point? Everybody else looks like us. So there is that thinking. When everybody else is like you begin to think that is the norm. You begin to think that you are okay. Because after everybody is walking around with a walking stick. So you don't know that there are places where people can walk around without a walking stick. I don't know if you get the analogy. When you are in that society, because everybody else look like you tend to think you are okay. So in this part of the world, many of us we actually grew up, in a wounded environment, but we just don't know. So it takes a strong will to be able to realize that how I was brought up was not necessarily the best. So it takes opening up to realize that before you be willing to seek help. Because if you don't know that you are sick, you don't have any reason to go to the doctor in the first place. If you don't know that you are sick. So when we look at this pattern, we say, okay, why don't we see men opening up about their family life? Why don't we see men opening up about things that are happening to them? Instead, they focus on sports, discussing work and all that. It is because that is the environment they grew up in. Everybody was doing that. So until they know that there is another side, that there are places in this world where men can actually come together to discuss, how do I take care of my child? That my teenage child is beginning to act this way. I don't know how to deal with it. And then I need help. Until we get to that place, we will never want to seek help. But there are support groups for men in other climes of the world. The beautiful thing, however, is that technology has made it easier. I don't have to be in America to join a support group. Right here in Nigeria, there are support groups that you can join. Like Chiedozie rightly said, he belongs to one. There are different support groups, and we need to understand what support groups are and why we need them. We need to understand that a support group is basically a forum for men to come together, and share with themselves about their families and things that they are going through. And there are lots of support groups, lots of them. And each support group has specific things they cater to. You know, whether you are a single dad, there is a support group for single dads. Whether you are a first-time father, there are support groups for just first-time dads. Whether you are a father of a teenager, there are support groups for just, fathers of teenagers. So, but the first thing that we need to understand is to come to that place where we realize that how we were brought up was not necessarily the best. The era of that, it is the mother that is at home, it is the mother that must take care of the kids, it is the mother that is responsible for anything that has to do with the home, has become deeply ingrained in men in this part of the world. Has become deeply ingrained. So not many of them realize that is not the best.
I like this part that you're going to, Elder Leader Mute. You know that it's a part that is interests me. By the way, Chiedozie is trying to sort something in the studio. So you said something. I know that you've been part of the academy for a while now. You know, active, contributory, and all of that. And Pastor Gaina, who is also supposed to be here, has been in that academy. In fact, Pastor Gaina is part of our Inner Circle program, himself and his wife. He's more active than his wife. Many times when I see the active men, you know, I'm usually very excited. We have a Buka who is also going to speak later in the day. He's also in the Inner Circle program. He's active. In fact, there was a time he had issues and he had something to sort. And I suggested that his wife should take his place in the academy. He said, no, that is a responsibility and he wants to actually, deal with it. And he was able to sort it out and then come back. Now that brings me back to the conversation that I know that, you are the most, the most qualified person, right? The most qualified person to have that conversation. Fathers being able to take up roles that seemingly should be a woman's role. You've been a stay-at-home dad for a while now. I'm sure that Nigerians are going to be in shock hearing this. So Leader Mute is a stay-at-home dad. So he stays at home to take care of his children, right, while he works from home. So a stay-at-home dad does not mean that he doesn't make money, for your information anyway. All right. So he's a stay-at-home dad. And his wife, goes to work. Can you please, throw more light? Why do you think? I'm sure whenever you say I'm a stay-at-home dad, people look at you like, what is he on about? What's happening, right? So please tell us about being a stay-at-home dad. Your experience in Nigeria. Why you think that a lot of men should take up more roles? And I know that you're highly educated. Worked with Pretty Agaba. I know that you've actually been in the runs of life, where the lights are shining, and then, back to deciding to be a stay-at-home dad. I'm really interested in this conversation myself, and I really want to be part of it. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Coach. I realized that until we begin to see people who do the unusual will never become usual with us. So we need more people who are willing to step into those other areas that we think are just for women. But it's not just about stepping in alone, but stepping in and letting the world know. You see, that is the critical factor. Stepping in and letting the world know that I am in this space. And there is nothing wrong with being in this space. That is what is really missing, because I know I'm not the only one who is a stay-at-home dad. But not every man who is bold enough to talk about it. Not every man who is bold enough to talk about it. So because they are not bold to talk about it, that void remains. Because influence, begins to gather momentum when people know that somebody else has done it. I'm not the first. Many people are just afraid of being first. They are not afraid of doing it, but they are just afraid of being the first person to do it. That is what many people are afraid of. So when they realize that somebody else has done something, it gives them the courage to also step into those roles. Yes, like you rightly said, whenever I mention that I'm a stay-at-home dad, I've gotten all sorts. I mean, if you can think about it, I've received it.
I know, even on the group, even on the academy, a lot of people go like, "What did you just say?"
If you can think about it, I've received it, and it's okay because this is the first time those people are getting to know that men actually do this. So there is that culture shock, that emanates when they get to see that this is because it's not part of our culture, quote unquote. So but then they see the first person, the second person, the third person. By the time they are getting to the 10th person, it would have eased off. It will no longer be new to them. But right now it is relatively new, and then this culture shock takes place because a lot of people believe that no, as a man, you are the one that should be working and providing and doing this thing, as if being at home does not mean you cannot work. But because they've not gotten to that level, they don't yet understand what is going on. So when we had our first child, Zoe, I realized that, okay, personally, I'm not big as per career or academia that I want to be a professor. I'm not big on that. Even while I was in the corporate world, family has always been my core value. It has always been a strong value for me. Now, but I have a wife also who loves the professional world, who loves, career. And I understand that she has great love for it. So it was something that we've already known right from time. So even when we had our first daughter and she had to resume work within 12 weeks, the system here is that you have 12 weeks leave. When your maternity leave is not more than 12 weeks. So Zoe was less than 3 months old and my wife had to resume work. So we had two options. Do we put a 3-month-old in a creche, or do we find an alternative? That was it. We had just that option. Placing a 3-month-old in a creche was a no-no for us, that we couldn't do that. Then, it was just, this is my child. I mean, for heaven's sake, I'm not talking about somebody else's child. This is my own daughter, my flesh and my blood. I mean, if I cannot run through a wall for her, who else will I run through a wall for? So it was not even a difficult decision to make, as it were. It was not a difficult decision. This is my child. Okay, I have been into entrepreneurship already and said, okay, I can just shut down some areas of what I do, because then I used to show up in radio stations and television stations, speaking engagements, and all of that is common in this part of the world. I said, okay, I'm going to shut down everything that's going to take me outside the home and focus on only what I can do from within the home. It was as simple as that. Yes, it doesn't mean that I was not earning anything, but it just meant that, a certain portion of my income will go. I will have to make do whatever I can make from within the home. And that was it. It was a sacrifice worth making, and since we've had 2 daughters now, and the same thing with the second daughter, I'm at home. So my wife goes to work and she returns. I mean, then, so the beautiful part was that, one, it helped me bond more with my daughter, even till date. You can tell, that, my daughter has this special affinity, for me, because I was there. Everything a woman could do for the child, I did it. So when I tell men that, I do this, I can, take care of my daughter, clean her poo, change her diapers, all those stuff, that I was surprised when I saw men who had never changed their baby's diapers. Never. I mean, and these are men that have 1, 2, 3, 4 kids. They have never done something like that because they feel that's the woman's job. I encountered a couple one time, and and the wife had already known that I was, the one taking care of my daughter, and she was just so full of admiration and praise. The husband was with her, so she was telling me that, you see, my husband, he would rather go to the moon and live there than for him to be at home and take care of the kids. It was that serious that there are, there are men like that. But men need to realize that there is nothing wrong with being at home taking care of your kids. It is your family, and it's not just only about the fact that, okay, I choose to do it. there are a lot of other circumstances that could have warranted it. What if the wife earns much more than the husband, for example? Assuming the wife earns much more than the husband, and one of them needs to, right?
Men will tell you they would rather die. Sorry.
You know, so do you mean that the wife who earns 800,000 should resign and sit at home, then the man who is earning 250K should continue to go to work? I mean, it does not make sense. You know, logically speaking, it does not make sense. Because one, you need the money to take care of the home. So if a situation warrants that one person needs to stay at home, it is not a decision of whether is it the man or the woman. It's a question of who earns more. That is what should be the decision-making point. Who earns more should continue working. Who earns lesser can stay at home. Even it may be temporarily, it may be permanently, I don't know, or find something else that you can do from home. Because I'm not big on sending 3 months old, 4 months old to crash. I'm not big on that. I really don't advise that. So I think we need to redefine these things so that fathers can be involved. And I think that's what the conference is about. We need more fathers to be involved, that the home is for both of you. Let us not, like I said at the beginning, we many of us grew up wounded, but we just don't know. So we need to start healing and begin to realize that, that this was how I saw it, this is how it has been. Does not mean I must continue in that circle. I need to make a difference. I need to be the end of, all this and start something new. So yes, I've been insulted. I remember ending one of my articles with "Stay at home, Dad" in one of these big groups on Facebook. I mean, you need to see the barrage of insults that I got that day. Meanwhile, most of them don't even know that. Okay, even being at home, I may be earning more than you is going to work. You just don't know that. The fact that I'm at home does not mean that no single money is coming in, but it just shows that I chose to be at home to take care of my kids.
Awesome. It just resonates with what was said yesterday, right? At the session, right? Where was it? It was Barrister Kinlami that was saying that this is not a question of us talking about what to do to the children. It's a question of us being able to look at ourselves, look at where we're coming from, look at the things that were the norms, and then begin to look at these norms, whether they're right things, whether there's some things that are very valid, that men must take position and all of that. But interestingly, one thing is key. We need to actually begin to look at the involvement of a father. And I like someone who made a comment. He said the child that is close to the father will be the child that is the more involved parent. It's not about father or mother. It's the more involved parent, the more present parent. Currently we're reading a book called Raising Boys in the Inner Circle, and a lot of us put conversations around it, all right. And part of the thing that we read, and we started having a conversation around it, was that early bonding with a boy child helps to avoid coronary artery diseases, 50 years later in the life of a child. In fact, it is said that 91% who never had early bonding with their mothers, always suffer this. It brings me to when you pointed out the crutch. We are in a society where, like you said, things that are not supposed to be normal have now become the norm, and then we run with it, and it's actually quite a thing. But let me ask this: how is there a distance, right? We're talking about involvement of the father. How have you we're looking for more role models, and I love that every man who has come on this platform for the conference has been men who have owned their own as per being an involved father. Yesterday, Pastor Osiri was speaking and he was in tears, when he was talking about sacrifice. I could even feel it from where I was, where he was. You could see a man who has sacrificed all, for his family, and it got him really pretty very much emotional. When Taiwo Akinlami spoke, he's been involved in a lot when it comes to being present, creating content for children and also fathers as well. We're also going to have many more men. We are bringing attention, like you said, we need more. Somebody said, Kenneth said, we need more role models as involved fathers. So we are needing more role models every day. So how have you been involved? What have you done? We want to hear in clear terms. What are the things that you have done that have created more involvement? This is one of them, being a stay-at-home dad. What other things have you done? What other things can you put on your journey as a father to let other fathers also pick out from this conference and begin to run with it?
Okay, thank you so much. Now, being a father, we need to understand that, one, we don't know it all, so we must be open to learning. We must be open to learning. Now, personally, as a father, one, being at home with my kids as a stay-at-home dad is a big sacrifice in itself. Now, but even beyond that, the willingness to learn, of course, why am I in the intentional parent, is being here to also learn more ways by which I can be more involved as a father. When my daughter goes to school, and she's back, I'm there with her to ensure our assignment is done. Even as at this morning, I had to do assignment with her, yesterday's assignment, before coming up, for this conference. Those little things that shows that you are present. It's not just the fact that you sit at home, because many men go to work, come back, and they are at home till the following day when they go to work again. But that window where you are at home, are you involved? You see, it is being involved that is the critical part. Are you involved? Does your child feel your presence? It could be as little as watching that cartoon with your child, and your child just feels your presence sitting on your laps as she's watching the cartoon. That is part of being involved. It is as much as, taking her school books and going through with her. You need to see my daughter on her tab trying to write, figure 6. And I'm telling her the curve, you take the curve left, and she's trying to take the curve right, to draft 6. But that creates even more bonding, because she's there. I'll take her hand and I'll say, okay, no, this is how you write 6, curve and inside, and then she will try to do it on her own. And when she gets it, there is this jubilation, there is this joy. See, all these are little ways by which fathers can get involved. There are little ways. Show your presence at home. Show your presence even in the chores at home. Show your presence by helping out in stuff that needs to get done. It's not just that the man, you get the wife pregnant, she delivers her baby, and then you wait till the next time she wants to get pregnant again. I mean, that we've gone past that. That happened when men go out to hunt, and they are out there in the bush for days before returning home. Now you go out in the morning, you are back in the evening. Be present, show your presence. So for me, I am involved in all of these little things. Even as much as going out to buy something, my daughter takes that stroll with me. And that gives an opportunity to educate the child, to tell her what this is, what that is. This is a car, that is an aeroplane flying above. Those little times are times that you use to educate your child, and you use to bond with your child. So many fathers are there who don't even get involved in all of these little things. But as a father, as fathers, we need to become involved in parenting. We need to show our presence in educating our child, in loving our child, in being there for our children. These are little areas that we can. It's not about just the big things alone. Yes, you pay the school fees, good, you buy the books, fine. But to a child, love is spelled Time. To a child, Love is not spelled L-O-V-E. It is spelled T-I-M-E. So until you show that time, until you allocate that time to your children, they hardly feel loved. They hardly feel loved. So we need to be more present with our children at home. Coach Wendy, I hope you are still there.
Yes, I am, boss. I am
Okay.
hoping
I
that we
wanted to
are
be sure
taking
that you are not having
screenshots.
network issue.
No, I'm
Okay.
here. I hope we're
All
taking
right.
screenshots. I hope we're sharing these quotes. There's a lot of learning, a lot to be absorbed. You said being involved is more than being at home. So I know a lot of people are going to say, okay, yeah, he's a stay-at-home dad, so that means everything is just okay. I've seen Leader Mute learn through being an intentional parent. Even though he's a stay-at-home dad, he's learning. He's listening, he's doing stuff, buying books to read and all of that, learning through the journey. So it's not just okay to just say, I am at home, so I am available. Being at home doesn't mean you're available. I like that practical example. Being involved is more than being at home. Does your child feel your presence? It's about doing the little things, homework, work, having chores. So you don't even need to be a stay-at-home father to be involved. So you can actually be the father,
Exactly.
and you are very involved. My husband is not a stay-at-home dad, but I tell you, it's practically involved all the steps. So you can actually be involved without. So we're not saying there's no particular cutout. Some people might come to this broadcast and misunderstand that we're saying, oh, go and become a stay-at-home dad because you came for a conference.
Yeah.
That's not what we're saying, please. We're
Yeah.
just saying that wherever it is
Yeah.
that you find yourself, that
Yeah.
you should, make sure that you are actually, doing what you need to do per time.
Yeah, if
And
I can chip in here, sorry,
yes,
excuse me, if
please.
I can chip in,
Yes.
I remember the example you gave of the father who is in Dubai, why the family is here in Nigeria. I don't know if you remember, and using Zoom, he's involved at home, just using Zoom. So with technology, even though the father is physically on a different time zone, on a different location, he is still involved in his home back here in Nigeria. Now, meanwhile, there are many men who are physically present at home, but they are not
But not
involved.
present.
See, what,
I agree.
what an irony. So we need to understand the difference between being present physically and being involved in the affairs of the home. So the focus here is being involved. It's not just being a stay-at-home dad or being physically present, but being involved. That is the key here.
All right, so we're talking about the involved father. Again, we apologize on behalf of one of our panelists, Pastor Gaina, lost someone this morning and needed to urgently attend to that. He was hoping that he would be here before we dispatch. We're hoping we will still be able to see him. Pastor Gaina is also one of the people. It's interesting, talking about being involved. And I remember talking about this particular man, Pastor Gaina. Pastor Gaina is the parish priest on an Ekwa church in the largest Ekwa church in Jalingo. And yet he has time to be in the inner circle program. If you are in the inner circle program, it's an intense program for fathers, mothers. We run it in the academy. It's intense. You get to read, you get to, do a lot of stuff. Yet he's there, all his assignments all done, all his books all put together. He's so involved that sometimes I ask him, how come, where do you get all the time? And when we talked about the conference and he being on the panel, he was so excited. He's talked about this panel for so many, days, so many weeks. And it's actually really, I'm very sorry that he couldn't make it. In fact, he when he sent me a chat this morning, he could see a lot of emotions in it. But that brings me to us, fathers being involved. And is it a place of, I also think that one of the reasons fathers are not involved is because of the kind of environment we find ourselves in, where fathers are not learning. Is there a reason to date? Elder Leader Mute, you are a leadership coach. you are a self-development, professional, and all of that. What do you think is the real issue with men not learning? How do we begin to get them, into the system of, learning and all of that? I had this conversation with Pastor Sri yesterday again, even after this session. He called me for about 30 minutes. We're talking, and it was actually something that, it's worrisome a lot, really. So I would like to hear your opinion about what we can do.
Yeah, I think there are a myriad reasons why we have this, but one of them, trying to bring it back to learning and education, I think many of us don't know the consequence of our actions. We don't know the consequence of our actions because the gaps in parenting are not immediate. The results of the gaps, they are not immediate. We don't feel the impact immediately. So, and when consequence is very far from cause, I don't know if you get my point. When consequence is very far from the causative factor, it does not register on time.
Oh, wow.
It does not register on time that it is something you did 25 years ago that is causing what is happening 25 years later. So it is easy to dismiss it as, how are you sure? It is not true. And this brings us to the absence of data in our clients. The absence of data, that we don't do these studies that can make men to realize that there is actually grave consequences to our not being involved. Over there, when most of the data we bring here, they are usually data from America, and many people don't, they don't buy into it because it is not sourced from amongst us. Even though it is actually real. Because it is not sourced from amongst us, many people don't buy into it. That people who grew up without fathers are 4 times more likely to end up in jail than people who grew up in homes with parents. Because those statistics, we don't have them here. So many people don't see the impact. Go to the streets, these louts that you find hanging around, go to most of their homes. I promise you, you'll find out that they did not grow up with fathers. Most of them did not grow up with fathers. But we don't have the statistics that backs this. We've not invested in the institutions that does these studies, that do these studies and bring out what they are finding. Until we begin to see that there is a connection between consequence and action, we will not want to take the right action. But when people begin to realize, when fathers begin to realize that if I'm not involved with my son now, 25 years from now, this child may end up in jail just because I'm not involved now. When it begins to register, more parents, more fathers will want to, step up their game and be present and be involved. But like I said, because the consequence of parenting gaps, is still far, far ahead, we don't see the need to address these issues. Then another thing, there was a time I made a post, an article, and I wrote the fact that, okay, if you look around, you always see posts about marriages failing, people looking for advice, and dear this, please hide my identity, please hide my identity, please hide my identity. And then you see heart-wrenching stories. You get to read heart-wrenching stories. The notion it creates is that all marriages are failing. I don't know if you get my point. That's the notion it creates, that all marriages are failing. And if you read through some comments, you see single people saying, if this is how marriage is, I say I go reconsider getting married. You get to see people making such statements because every day they are seeing people talk about failures in marriages. The gap is this: we don't celebrate marriages that are working. Marriages that are working are not celebrated. We take it that it is by default, that is how it is supposed to be. But Even the best dressed worker in the place of work is celebrated. Best dressed, though, that he wore tie, he wore long sleeve, and he wore trouser to work. At the end of the month, they will craft one award and say, this is the best dressed staff of the month. They will celebrate him. Why? They want other employees to begin to dress like him. Are you getting me? Now, but then we look at marriages that are working 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, 15-year marriages that they are still together. How? Let us be honest, Wendy. How many times have you seen a church say, this Sunday, we want all those who have been married for the past 5 years to stand up and let us give them a round of applause? How many churches have done that? You know, we hardly do it. I don't remember any church that will say, okay, if you've been married for the past 20 years, you deserve to be celebrated. Please stand to your feet and let the rest of the church, the congregation, clap for these people. You see, you'll be surprised that there are many marriages in that congregation that they've been married for 20 years and they are happy. They are living well, but they are not celebrated. But one couple has an issue in their marriage and end up in divorce. It's all over social media. Right? It's all over social media. So 1 million people get to see the one that is not working, while nobody sees the one that is working.
That is working.
We need to reverse that by celebrating what is working. We need to reverse that. The more we celebrate what is working, the more people we want to be like what is working. Because we are all humans. People love to be appreciated. People love to be celebrated. Until we start celebrating those who are getting it right, more people will not see the need to get it right. They just want to work by default. But you cannot get it right just by following your default setting. Because your default setting is already wrong. The wiring itself is already wrong. We have to come out of that place. Because many of us, like I said, we are wounded. You know, when people say, we turned that well. You see what I'm saying? They turned that well because everybody is like them. Are you getting it? Everybody around is like them. So they turned that well. Until you take that person to an environment where he is now different from those around, he now realizes that I really did not turn out well. You know, but when you're in the midst of people who are just like you, you always think that you turned that well. But we did not, in all honesty. We did not turn out well.
Awesome. You know, if we begin to see, I like where you took it from. You know, one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing is because we can't see the consequences. We still are not able to marry it and say it was because I was not involved as a father 20 years ago. That's why my son went to prison 20 years later. I don't think we've been able to put that together. I think for me, that's a takeaway, right? From all of this conversation is a huge takeaway from all of this conversation, because we haven't even gotten to the point where we are looking at what can happen. That's why we're saying, oh, there's a parenting course you need to take. The father is doing face and saying, oh, please, it's the woman's problem, because the father has not really seen in the future that him not being involved and knowing what to do can send his son to prison 20 years later. We've not been able to look at the consequences, and I think that's our biggest challenge. That's our biggest challenge, and because also. There's something Taiwo Akinlabi said yesterday. That we should not take our attainment to what it is, to the struggles that we're having from our upbringing. Because you will get to a place and you say, because I have attained. Attaining doesn't solve the problem, really. That being that you have attained does not mean that all of those things are gone. You must also begin to look at the issues. So one of the reasons why we keep saying things like we turned out right is because attainment is what has taken over. We're not looking at the inner person. Yes, because you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you have attained.
That's it. Sorry. I hope there's a glass of water there.
Yes, I do have.
All right. Okay. So it's basically, when I was in the corporate world, like they read in my profile, I'm a certified safety professional. And while I was in Procter and Gamble, for a period of 2 years, I was the head of safety for an entire department. In fact, that popular Baba Blue, which is actually Vicks Blue, the department that was that makes that Vicks Blue, I was the safety program leader for 2 years. And in safety, there's what we call root cause and basic cause. Basic cause is why something happened. What was the immediate reason? For instance, you are walking and then you slipped because there was maybe some drops of water on the floor. Your foot stepped on that water, you slipped and you fell. So we'll say, why did you fall? The basic cause or the immediate cause is that you tripped on water. You see, but in safety, we don't stop there. We don't say water was what made you fall. We look, why was the water there? Are you getting me? Why was the water there? Oh, the water was there because somebody was passing with a drum of water and water spilled. Okay, why did the water spill from that drum when the person walked by? Because it was not properly covered. Why was it not properly covered? Because the person who, filled that drum with water was not trained on how to cover that container. Are you seeing how all these are linking? So what that person did maybe 3 hours ago, he got water into a drum or a container and could not tighten the cover properly, was why that other person ended up tripping. So if we want to fix the problem, it's not just enough to wipe that water from the floor, because you wipe the water from the floor now, the next time that person is passing with that drum of water, water will spill on the floor again. So to fix the problem, one, you wipe that water, but you also make sure you go back to train whoever is responsible for taking water through that place, through that corridor. So there is a basic cause, there is a root cause, and then there is an immediate cause. In parenting, it also applies. That child may have gone to jail because he stole and he was taken to court and the judge pronounced him guilty. So he sentenced him to 10 years imprisonment. But why did that child steal? You see, is another question that has to be answered. You now begin to trace back and you find out that it started while he was a kid at home. But the father was not present or the mother was not strong enough to discipline. So the root cause goes back to 20 years ago. That was why that child ended up in jail. So we need to begin to see parenting from this perspective, that what we are doing now are the root causes of a lot of things that our children will do in another 25 years from now. Hello, Coach. I'm reading the comments on the...
I was muted. All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Leader Mute. This has been an expository conversation. Chiedozie is somewhere in the studio trying to make sure that things are fixed up. I want to say thank you to my team. I like to always say in all the sessions that we have brought in people, renowned speakers, people who are, busy, that we actually got in here to help us to also put this narrative and push it out there. We want to say thank you to Leader Mute, thank you to Pastor Gaina, thank you to everybody who was supposed to be on this panel. Thank you, Chiedozie, and thank you so much. And like I said in the other panel session, this is not a free conference. Someone paid the price for it. And I tell you for free, we pay the price for it. Leader Mute seated here has paid the price for you to be here. TIP paid the price for this to be set up. Nothing comes free. And you must recognize that and appreciate that. Nothing ever is free. That we're here, it's not free at all. Someone paid the price for you to be here. In fact, for instance, I've had some of my team members not leave the office since yesterday till this morning. You can't believe it.
imagine.
They're still seated here, streaming from the office, doing stuff and all of that. It's been a whole lot. And one of the ways that you can put this and appreciate this is actually for you to go on social media, tag Lita Mute, tell us something that you learned. Thank you so much for being here. We're going to rush off to the next panel session. This panel session is for women. So hey, women, come in mass. Let's go and talk about what we've done here. Men can join us if they wish, right? We will want you to join us because we are having some interesting conversation on that area. And then we are also going to have Emeka Nobis. Emeka Nobis is a coach who is going to be teaching us on how to make more money if there is multiple streams of income. He's going to be here at 12 noon on the TIP Fathers Conference before we now close down till evening sessions. You don't want to miss any of these sessions. Remember that if you do not watch the sessions, you can always get a replay, but you need to contact us because replays are not free. So please stream live, join us live. We want you to be live. We want you to be here excited with us. Please share your last words, Leader Mute, as we begin to round up.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Coach Wendy. I think lastly, I'll just say this to fathers. The times have changed and it's time for fathers to step up and realize that in the midst of all that is happening, we need to understand that our presence matters. We need to understand that how we were brought up was not necessarily the best. That means we must be willing to learn better ways of parenting. And there is no shame in that. We must be willing to go out to learn, join groups, read books. The Intentional Parent is an excellent group to learn more about parenting. And when you are in the midst of such support groups and you begin to see what other parents are doing, you learn and you feel proud because you know that you are not alone. Because it is harder when you are actually alone. But when you are in the midst of other people who are also learning and they are not afraid to share their pain, they are not ashamed to share their struggles, you also will want to open up and be willing to learn. So as fathers, let us come out, let us be willing to support. The days of this is a woman's job is over. Now we need both the man and the woman to work together for the good of the family. That is the bottom line. It is still my family. I should be willing to run through a wall for my family. So it's time for us to step up our game and be the fathers we ought to be. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leader Mute, and it's so exciting to have this conversation. I'm sure we're going to still have Leader Mute, talk to us about a lot of things, in further conferences. Thank you so much for being here. We do not take it for granted, and I also want to say gladly on this platform that Leader Mute was one of the people who inspired me when I came into the online space with the kind of community he ran. Thank you again, sir, and for all you do. We are very grateful. Thank you. All righty. So thank you so much, everybody. Please remember that we have resources for fathers, right? Please, Nena, this is not a mothers conference, right? Come and ask your questions in the conference in the session that we're having for mothers, right? This is a this is a conference. This is a conference for men. It's not a conference for women. So if you have questions, woman, if you're here, you're supposed to be here. We're supposed to actually, beat you to take you out of the system, right? So you should actually be in a corner not saying anything. So no, it's not a forum for you. So we're not going to take your questions. All right. So if you're a man, this is for you. Ask questions, then we will take it from there. All right. So if we'll I hope to join the inner circle soonest. Yay! We have a father talking about the inner circle. Yay! Hope to really, really have you. We're gonna do something for fathers, to actually be able to also have a lot more fathers come into the system. All right. The women's session is right now. As we close this session, we're going to have a conversation in the room, with women, where men are going to be watching and we are going to be speaking our mind, right? So you can come. It's right now. We just took out 10 minutes out of our time because we had some delays, right? So we're going to be up in the next few minutes, 5 minutes, right? So we're going to be up in the next 5 minutes for that session. That session is going to be mind-blowing. Don't miss it. All fathers should be here. And again, you also need to note that we have resources from all of these sessions. We're creating worksheets, we're creating plans so that you will be able to get into something to do after this whole stuff. I do not want us to come for this whole conference and just say, yay, I learned something and all of that. What are we going to do about it? So we're providing you with worksheet, cheat sheet, and also a blueprint. We called it the blueprint of the involved father. That's what we called it. And then you're also going to get replay of all the sessions, all in one pack. All of this is what about more than 50,000, but we said that we're going to give it out to you for 5,000 naira only. Please remember the replays are not going to be available afterwards. You would need to purchase them with all the materials and they come with it. Trust me, we need to do something after we are here. It's okay for us to come, right? It's okay for us to come, for all of these, and then put these together. Oh, then I say I'm using my wife's device. So sorry. Okay, so some men are using their wife's device. We're sorry. All right, we're very sorry because we're seeing a lot of, the women's name and all of that. So sorry about that, sir. All right, so you could ask your questions. You can bring it up in the next session so that we can quickly can get into the next session as well. So thank you, Joy, for putting that. By the way, Joy is part of my team. So in case if you see the females, they are part of my team in quotes. Just a few of them who are just commenting, and some of the men, like we have seen now, are using their wife's device. All right, so you can get all of that. The guide on the blueprint of the involved father. What 3,000? The sessions. These sessions are not even what they are. What much more? If you're going to bring in this coaches to come and teach, on all of these aspects, you're going to pay much more. All right, but we're giving out all of these for 5,000 naira. You'll be able to start your involved fatherhood journey. In that blueprint, we actually put, the things that you need to do. So it's not just, I just want to be there. We even put up a plan for conversations for you. All right, so you can. I know that some fathers are already pre-ordered. You're going to get, your copies after the conference. Some fathers already pre-ordered their copies. So we have a few fathers who have already said, see, I just want this. I want to begin a journey. I want to begin a process. All right. The slots for the inner circle, it's going to be for 2022, right? You can book slots to join the inner circle. However, you can start your journey already while you're waiting in for the inner circle. Thank you again for being here. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you. And then join us now as we get into this next session at 11:15. See you and have a good morning.